Welcome to the Science of Calm, the online summit for exploring science-forward and holistic approaches to cultivating deep calm and nervous system regulation. It's your go-to for tips, tools, and protocols from world-class experts and pioneers in their field so that you can be proactive with your health and have more calm. I'm Wendy Johnston, and I will be your host for this interview. I would like to start us out with a little bit of breath work and just coming into our body for just a little moment here. So wherever you are, just kind of, it's an invitation to close your eyes if that's comfortable. If not, the gaze can go, just lower the eyes, gaze can go at the nose as we let the shoulders drop, and just introducing a little bit of maybe a little shake, little letting go some of that tension in those shoulders, just starting to let it drop and starting to arrive here in the space. And we're just going to take in a nice deep breath in through the nose, all the way down into the belly. And then an exhale out the mouth. It can be nice and noisy if you want to, just letting everything go. Deep breath in through the nose, all the way to the belly, out through the mouth. And one last one, in through the nose, all the way to that belly, and out through the mouth. And just taking a moment here to note the quiet. I love enjoy the silence. So just enjoying it and knowing that you can come back to this quiet anytime with just the breath. So as we flicker our eyes open a little bit, I'm going to tell you a little bit about our guest today. Her name is Marcy Little, and she is the author of Naked, My Body's Story, and host of the Healing Sexual Trauma Summit. Marcy is a skilled yoga teacher and somatic practitioner who specializes in trauma recovery, healing sexual trauma, and supporting people with chronic health conditions. God bless you. Marcy draws from her training in somatics, IFS, somatic psychedelic facilitation, and applied polyvagal theory. Welcome, Marcy.
Thank you. Thanks, Wendy.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing your beautiful body-centric work in for us to learn from and be exposed to today. So thank you very much. So I kind of hand it over to you a little bit if you would like, and ask you to share a little bit with our audience about what you do and maybe a little bit about your journey and what brought you here.
Thanks for opening us with the breath. That's such a nice way to land.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so much of what I do is about landing in the space of the body. And, you know, I've been a yoga practitioner since 1991 and an African dance aficionado, if you will, with a whole performance piece since 1989. So being in the space of the body for me and bringing mindfulness into the space of the body has been a long journey. And I really attribute it to what has allowed me, for example, to understand how to heal from trauma. And back in, I'm a retired now, language teacher. And back in, what year was it now? I can even remember. Yeah, it was 2016. I had my second sort of brush with toxic mold, which made me very sick and which ultimately kicked me out of teaching. And following that time, I went on a deep, deep healing journey. And that's when I became a yoga teacher, kind of like much more of a yoga teacher. I had been teaching it. And on my healing journey and working with some shamans in Mexico, coming home from that journey, I I became suddenly aware that I had a level of trauma healing at the cellular level. I called it cellular level. Now I would call it at the nervous system level, which is at the cellular level, but that had still needed to be attended to. I thought I had done all my work. Well, we've never done all of our work, right? We're always, there's always more to unveil. And we get to, in that process, experience ourselves more and more fully and with more and more enjoyment of being in this exquisite physical form. And unfortunately, there are a lot of us who don't experience being in our bodies that way most of the time. In fact, a lot of people who I work with, they begin by saying, I've never felt safe in my body. So it can be very painful and difficult to actually turn to being in the body if that's your experience. And so we have to do that carefully, and we have to do that mindfully and responsibly, right? So yeah. So when I realized that, I went on this journey to really deeply listen, and a book started to emerge. Writing was part of my process. And of course, my cat is now at the door. I'm just going to leave him. Yeah, so a book started to emerge. I just started writing. I didn't really know what it was, and then it became clear what it was. And it took a little while to get it into its final edited form, and I launched it in 2021. So it's out there, and it's just interesting now to go back sometimes to read it and be like, that was 2017, and now here we are in 2025. And while I still know and recognize myself and find it very beautiful, because ultimately it's a story of learning how to love myself, and to receive and have love, really, and how certain kinds of trauma, if not all trauma, can really block us to being able to have that experience that we're meant to have here. Yeah, and this enjoyment of being fully in our embodied form. So looking at it now, it's like, whoa, I'm a really different person now than who I was when I was writing this book. And yet I still feel that the book is a useful book to anybody who's on that journey, on any journey of healing trauma, or just, being more alive in themselves. So yeah, so that sort of got me into the work that I do now, since 2017, and I teach yoga regularly. And I started working with people one-on-one to help them to also start really listening. Well, what's going on here? Because most of us are really living from the neck up. Consider our body a vehicle just to get from place to place, just to get us to do the things that we want to get done in our lives. And our culture supports that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It moves us quickly, and
It
really
moves us
can't
quickly.
attend necessarily with the time restraint.
Exactly. And it does move us quickly, and that's part of it. So there's there's this, so I want to just back it into talking about, where does trauma live in us? And when we do talk therapy, we're coming from a place of cognition, a place where we're able to put into words, what our experience is. But trauma lives in the nervous system, and trauma lives in a place that's often wordless, right? And it lives in a place in the nervous system that's where it's pre-language. It lives in the place of the nervous system where we are in our sensory experience. So in order to begin to really heal trauma, we actually have to go there. We can't do it by talking about it. When we talk about it, it just keeps it going. And the same thing with stress. Usually when we talk about what's stressing us out, we just stay in our activated state. Right? We stay in our like, oh, this person at work drove me crazy, and here's all why. And at the end of that conversation, if you tune in with yourself, you don't feel any better.
Yeah,
Your
there's going to
felt
be more the
sense.
next conversation. You will have more to talk about, more to talk about.
Yeah, it doesn't attend to what actually needs to be released. And so, exactly, released. And so understanding sort of stress response, trauma response, and how it's a nervous system response is the first key to knowing how to offer yourself calm, safety, right? And you really can't do it without that. So, when I love the work of Peter Levine, and I'm studying somatic experiencing right now, and it aligns completely with what I've been doing and what I do. And I just love, you know, how he's like, you know, I studied animals in the wild, and a stress comes in, a threat comes in, and he watches what they do. You know, they turn to the threat, they get activated, they mobilize to either run away or fight or they freeze because they know they can't. And then when the threat is gone, they shake it off.
Yeah.
And then they return, and their nervous system returns to, oh, now I'm just reorienting and I'm eating and I'm relaxed. And then a threat comes in and that whole process takes place again, right?
Yeah.
And for us, and like we've kind of already talked about, it's like we live in a world that doesn't offer us that part of the process where the nervous system gets to actually release what stimulus has come in.
Yeah.
Without that releasing, we go through a day and we're just accumulating, and if we have, you know, a pretty, we'll call it what we call a window of tolerance that's pretty wide, and we can handle a lot of different stresses, and we can sort of re-regulate throughout the day, fantastic. But for many of us, it's overwhelming. It overwhelms, and then we come home and we're like, you know, what are the signs that you're dysregulated? Which is a great question to ask. You know, what are the signs? So for many of us, we don't even necessarily understand what's going on or what we need to feel better, right? Yeah. So, and usually what we need is to discharge all of that stuff.
But we
Yeah.
know when we don't feel comfortable. We definitely, we can feel it when our nervous system is tense, or when we're scared, or, you know, we can feel it.
Yeah, and I can see your body showing it. It's like, yeah, there's a tension, a quality, a contraction that happens, a raising
Yeah.
of the shoulders, a tightening of the jaw, a tension in the chest, et cetera. In a minute, we're going to check in and see if anybody's got that going on. But I wanted to give everybody an experience right now so that they could actually feel in their own bodies what it's like to have a sympathetic nervous system stimulation response, and then to feel it actually let go and let the parasympathetic, which is rest and restore, come in. And it'll take us about 2 minutes. Is that okay? Would you like to do that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So we're going to stand up to do this. And folks who are watching, you can join us and stand up. And for 20 seconds, just 20, going to move our bodies. We're going to act as though we're running in the wild. Okay. And if running is not your thing, if you're not wearing a bra, like I'm not today, you can take it down. But just
I can see you anyway, probably.
Okay, you ready to start? You can also do this sitting. You don't necessarily have to be standing to do this. Okay, here we go. Let's go, Wendy. Let's run. And you can run as big or small as you want. Yeah, for a little jog. And while you're here, just notice, bring your awareness into what it feels like to be moving this way. You know, you might notice things like, oh, seems like it's getting harder to talk while I do this. My breath is getting shorter. My heart rate is going up. Maybe it feels good to be doing this. Maybe it feels crappy to be doing this. Yeah. And a few more seconds. A few more seconds and stop. Okay. Yeah. And now we're just I'm going to invite you even, Wendy, to narrate what you're noticing in your body.
There's definitely a heightened just energy. My energy is aroused and moving.
So we're going to stay with it. Yeah, keep noticing.
I noticed some tension in my shoulders personally.
And as you stay with it, things are going to continue to change. So just stay with it and notice what shifts may occur.
The shoulders are moving down. My body's starting to quiet and calm, coming back to calm again. I think I noticed a little bit of shaking.
Mhm.
I'm definitely coming back into calm.
Coming back into calm.
Mhm.
Yeah. How do you know?
Hmm. The body's just feeling settled. The energy isn't moving really fast. It's slowing. My body system feels like it's slowing.
Great.
My
Yeah.
breath is slowing.
Uh-huh.
My mind is feeling yummy and soft
Uh-huh.
again.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you so much for that. Why don't we come back to seated? So that's called What Goes Up Must Come Down. And so
Love
as
it.
you can see, 20 seconds of getting it going, and then something like 90 seconds and you're back,
Yeah, it's nice.
right? You're back. Yeah. And what would it be like if during our day, you know, we could go ahead and get activated, get mobilized, get the thing done. But then when we're done, actually let ourselves release that, let ourselves discharge that energy
Yeah,
and
it
come
feels
to a
really
state,
nice.
doesn't it? It feels good.
Mhm.
But usually most of us, we don't. We just don't really even transition between one thing to the next. We just go right into the next thing again.
Yeah.
And so we don't give ourselves this moment to let whatever we've just done go.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
nice.
Yeah, and then be ready for the next thing. So thanks for participating in that. And hopefully
Mhm.
folks who
Thank
were
you.
also watching did it and had the same kind of an experience. And that can just be so, for me, it's like all my synapses fire and go crazy with that because it just makes so much sense.
Yeah,
So simple and so basic. And
right?
yet, yeah, and yet the
All
life,
built in.
it's built in. That's right. Our nervous systems know what to do if we let them, if we let them.
Yeah.
But Western culture isn't constructed to support that, right? It's a whole different model. So because our external environment isn't necessarily offering us that opportunity, we actually have to give it to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we can't know to give it to ourselves if we don't know about it. Right? So that sort of brings in the next thing I was wanting to talk about, which is something called interoception.
I was going to say, and it's important to note also that it's not offered, the space isn't offered either to note it or even to know that we need it. So this next part is really important.
Yeah, this next part is essential. Yeah. So interoception, loose definition, is basically just perception of what's happening inside, right? In yoga, we call it the inner gaze. You know, we turn the gaze inward to tune in. Some people have this and it's very developed in them. They're attuned to what's going on. They've developed this or they were born with it or their environment supported it. Many people have not developed this. And so it will take time to develop this, right? Or somewhere in the middle. Yeah. So it helps to have a practice that helps you to do it or to just decide each day before I get out of bed, I'm just going to take a moment and check in. How am I feeling right now as I start my day? Now, what's going on inside? What do I notice
Yeah.
inside, etc.
That's
With the
how I
work of
know for me, that's how baby Wendy started. I remember being 20 and like, or even younger, maybe I was in like my late teens. And I had gone through so much trauma in my childhood, and it was just so amazing to actually, I just remember my little self sitting on my bed and asking myself, how do I feel? What do I want?
Mm,
How do I feel?
mm,
What do I want? And I did that every day for probably a year straight. That same practice, very simple,
mhm.
but it starts you
And
to, yeah.
no, go ahead. It starts
Oh,
to.
no, it starts the ball rolling. It starts you really attuning in to what's
Yeah,
going on.
yeah, exactly. And it's a game changer,
Yeah, it is.
a life changer. Yeah, because if you can start with that every day at the same time, even for just 30 seconds, it'll start
Mhm.
to build on its own into your day and it will develop and grow in you.
Yeah.
So, but it can't grow if you don't kind of intend it and make it, give yourself that space to make it happen. When it comes to the nervous system and what's going on in the nervous system, the new term for that is neuroception, right? Like beginning to be able to tune into like, oh wow, I'm really activated right now. Like, and what are the signs of that? Or, oh, I'm really collapsed right now, you know? And that's neuroception, and working with the nervous system, that's a wonderful part of the interoception too, that begins to really develop as well. And then once you do begin to notice, like, whoa, I am like, woo, you know, my heart's I'm, yeah, like, well, then you can begin to say, well, what would feel good then to me right now? Like, what would help me to release some of that, to come back to a state of more presence, more groundedness, more calm, more centeredness, like to let that go, kind of like what we just did when we stopped running. You know, what would allow that state, that parasympathetic nervous system state to come in? Or if I'm noticing that, oh, I'm just, my body is just too heavy, and, you know, I'm feeling like everything is too much. Well, what is going to be the medicine for that in that moment? Well, maybe I'll just try, you know, sitting up just a teeny bit straighter, or tuning into my breath and seeing. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, I don't feel the same. I feel like there's more possibility, like there's more space for me. There's more, etc. So even with tiny tweaks, we can give ourselves an enormous shift in how we're feeling in ourselves. And then life just is different, right? As we go through it.
Yep. Building in just a little bit of space to ask.
Yeah.
You know, and give ourselves a little bit what makes us feel better.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
medicine. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm beginning to even clue into, well, what would that be? And that really, you can work with somebody who can help you to figure that out. You can just try things that help, etc. So I guess I'm wondering, if we could do another kind of quick, I would like to do just invite people to do a body scan right now, because not everybody's been
I
aware.
always say that it's like you know how there's that saying that if when someone loves you if they make you a lasagna. Anybody who's ever made lasagna knows it takes forever. It can be quite a long process, you know. But I always say in my own practice, like with my clients, I always say, you know, someone loves you when they give you a relaxation scan.
Yeah, and so this isn't necessarily a relaxation scan, it's just an interoception building scan, which is to just begin to even notice. I'm going to give something for relaxation before we go, though, don't you worry.
Okay.
Okay, so here right now, invite you to just notice what you're sitting on. And if you can make contact with that and feel that, and allow a little weightedness in the pelvis and the belly. Feel free to close eyes or not close eyes. You get to decide. And begin to bring that awareness inward. You might notice something that shows itself right away, particularly if there's tension. Often it's nice to notice what's happening in the breath. So I invite you to start with that without trying to change anything. Simply notice, how does the breath feel in the body? Oftentimes our breath is shallow. And we have these huge lungs, you know, that we could be filling, but often our breath sits right at the top. We get about 10% of our capacity for breathing, which will probably not be surprising. It offers us about 10% of our capacity for presence in the body. So just noticing what's going on with the breath. And in the noticing, you may even notice it shift and change without having to do anything. Just by being noticed, it's like, oh, thank you. And then you may want to bring awareness to the top of your head and face and ears Eyes. I'm going kind of fast here, so feel free to slow it down for yourself. I'm going too fast. And mouth, and neck, front and back. Just noticing what you find here. Bringing awareness into the chest. Seeing if it feels tight or constricted, or if there's any kind of anything that's here for you, or if it feels easy and relaxed and spacious. And coming into your shoulders. What do you notice here in the shoulders? You can bring awareness into the center body, rib cage, and the belly. You may notice something happening in your hands or your arms. Like I notice I carry a lot of tension in my hands and my forearms. And you may bring a bit of awareness into the upper legs and then the lower legs and your feet. So really, this is just a noticing. This is a building of interoception, that ability, that capacity to tune into what's happening. Not looking to do anything about it, but just notice. And in that noticing, you may notice things shifting as you pay attention. So we're going to come out, and I want you to take your time and gradually find your way back. If it feels good, you could use your hands and just rub your legs a little bit to feel that. And eventually opening your eyes to come back. And maybe before orienting to the screen, just orient to something in your environment. Notice where you are. I noticed that nice deep breath that just wanted to take place for me. Yeah. And so, Wendy, I invite you to just, since you're the one I'm sitting with, to share anything at all that you would like to about what you may have noticed.
Okay, so just quickly, I've been kind of going through a little something sad with my mom right now, and I had talked to my husband about it last night, and I said, "Oh, it's kind of weird. I'm not feeling emotion about it, and I'm wondering if I'm stuck in freeze, or if I'm overwhelmed, or if I've accepted it, and maybe I've just accepted it." And so, as I did my scan, when I got to my belly, my body, like everything teared up. And
Yeah.
I felt a release, and I was like, oh, okay, so there is some emotion there and something stuck. And
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. And thanks for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was great. So giving yourself that moment to actually check in and do a really quick body scan, you were able to notice a place where, oh, there's emotion sitting in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. And is there anything else you want to share? Anything else you may have noticed?
Nope, everything else feels delightful.
Oh, good. Lucky you. Lucky you. I noticed, if it's okay, I could share a little bit.
Sure, please do.
Yeah, I noticed just a tiny bit of tightness in my
Oh,
chest.
yeah.
I noticed a little, just sort of like a up here in the shoulders, leading to the
Little
neck. And
pinching.
like I said, it's just amazing whenever I tune in. It's like, wow, I really I hold a lot of tension in my forearms and my hands. So interesting to just sort of notice that. Yeah. And then because I have a lot of of skill, a lot of history, a lot of work in this area, in this field, I might know what to do around that. So for me, noticing some tension in my hands, I might try just increasing that tension for a moment and then releasing it and see what happens. That would be something that I might do. So there are just many things over time that we begin to learn that can attend to, what sort of in the way of, not in the way isn't the right word, but like what needs tending to, and what would tending look like?
Yeah.
And once that tending happens, then what, right? And do I need to cry? Is there something that needs to be expressed or released in order you know, for the discharge that needs to occur to take place, or just to feel something that is just true for you or real, etc. Yeah, and we can do this in small doses, right? So if there's trauma, for example, it's really important to do this in small doses, and also sometimes to do it with somebody who's very skilled to help us to find our way. Yeah, and so that's, we build interoception, and interoception ultimately serves us because we can't really make the changes that we need to or offer ourselves the care that we need to if we're not noticing what it is. Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay. I'm guessing we're getting close to our time.
I think we still have maybe a few minutes. I think we're
Okay.
good. Okay.
So if we have a few minutes,
We do.
I would love to offer one more experiential thing, experiential experience. Yeah, in the body. I'm going to take my glasses off to join you off this, even though now everything is blurry. Okay, and this is a pranayama breath. It's called 3-part breath. And if you happen to notice when we did the attuning exercise, the scanning exercise, that your breath was shallow, for example, this is a breath that will support you to land more deeply in yourself, in your breath. And prana, the life force energy, as we talk about it in yoga, comes in on the breath, and give yourself more life force energy and basically just what you really need. And because the vagus nerve, and I know you have someone else who's talking about the vagus nerve, because the vagus nerve runs through here and into the belly, across the heart and through the stomach and the organs and into the belly, doing this 3-part breath is also very, very toning and supportive to the vagus nerve. And so if we have unreleased tension, for example, very often this kind of breath will be supportive.
Good.
Okay. All right. You ready?
I'm ready.
You're ready.
I think we're ready.
I'm ready. We're ready. Everybody's ready. So once again, an invitation to either keep eyes open or closed. And I might just keep mine open for a little bit here, even as I turn inward. Feeling your feet on the ground, feeling what you're sitting on, giving yourself that moment. And I want to first invite you to bring a hand to your belly below the navel. Sorry about that. Bring your belly to the navel, below the navel. And just notice what's happening here. And as you inhale, for example, does it move? So the diaphragm, when we inhale, moves down in the body, right? And if things are relaxed, then the belly will expand. And if it's not expanding, let's see if you can invite some expansion on the next inhale with your hand here. And just feeling the hand move, both with the inhale, expanding, and the exhale, contracting. And if it's not happening for you, then don't worry about it. Don't stress about this. Then it's just something interesting to note. Okay. And now I want to invite you to take both hands to the sides of the rib cage. Like this, just right here, like this. Yeah. Just gently, and if that feels okay. And if it doesn't feel okay, you can find some kind of a modification for that. And the next invitation is to notice as you inhale if the ribs move. Sometimes those are locked down, right? Especially if we're under a lot of stress. And then the invitation, if they aren't moving, is to invite them to move on the inhalation. Let the expansion happen into the hands. And release that, let that go. And we're going to take our fingertips up to our collarbones. Good. We're going to do the same thing as we inhale, just noticing movement here. The lungs actually come up and behind the collarbones. That's how big they are. They're just ginormous, really. What an incredible resource they are. And this may feel more familiar to people, like a breath that happens up here in the body. Letting the collarbones move. Inhalation and exhalation. Good. Okay, so we're going to release that. Take a hand back to the belly. And you can keep a hand up here near the collarbones, or you can put one on the side body, whatever would feel most supportive. And the 3-part breath on the inhalation goes like this, and just listen first, and then you can try it. So we're going to take one long inhalation in 3 parts. And on the first part of the inhalation, we're going to fill the belly and pause. And then we fill the rib cage and pause. And then we fill up through the collarbones. And then we pause, and then we let it all go. For some people, this will cause stress. And so if you notice yourself feeling activated by this, just come back to natural breath. Okay, and there's nothing to force here. This can be gentle, very gentle. All right, so those are some things to get you ready. I want everyone to take really good care of themselves. Okay, so here we go. As we inhale, fill the belly just a little and pause. And continue the inhale to fill the rib cage, sides of the rib cage, and pause. And then up to the collarbones. Pause at the top. And then exhale it all out through the mouth if you like. And if and when you're ready, we'll do it again. We'll inhale into the belly hand and pause. Just a third of the breath, filling up the rib cage. Pause. And the rest of the breath filling all the way up through the collarbone. Hold it for a moment at the top and exhale it all out. And we'll do one more. So filling into the hand. Pause. Filling the rib cage. Pause. And filling up through the collarbones. Pausing at the top. And then letting it all out. Wonderful. Coming back to natural breath. And if it feels good to keep your hands here, you can, or you can release the hands and take your time to come back. Yeah. Yeah, if there are any other movements that you want to make, or a place that would feel good to bring hands right now. Totally support that. Yeah. So that I can see you clearly, I'll put my glasses on. Hello over there.
Hello.
Hey. Oh, hey, you. So how was that for you, Wendy?
Ah, that was wonderful. It was
Yeah.
exactly, oh yeah, it was beautiful. Yeah. And it takes a little bit, like a little bit of practice to get that breath into that belly. And it doesn't just have to happen like that. It does. It can be little, I always tell my clients, when just if you're feeling really stressed, ask yourself, where am I breathing? And you probably will find you breathing in your chest, and just, you know, just real simple. It's a super simple, small little step. It's just bringing that breath into the belly.
Mhm.
It does work miracles. You can't
It can
stress
work.
if you're breathing.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we begin to tune in more regularly with where my breath is, just like you're saying, we might begin to notice, oh wow, I'm carrying tension in my belly.
Mhm.
I wonder what that's about. I wonder what it would be like to move towards that with a little bit more of a deeper breath. And I think it's really important, like I said, to do this mindfully and in doses, because for somebody, for example, who's carrying a lot of trauma on their belly, and that's, you know, a long held place. We don't want to release all of that at once necessarily, because that could be overwhelming, but just a tiny bit of softening, let a tiny bit of breath in there. You don't have to go for the whole, you know, like, oh, I'm going to go right to my full capacity. You know, we can start with very small doses and have tremendous shifts take place. So there's no need to go in there with the, here's what I should be doing, or here's the, you know, like, no, we really need to be loving and mindful of what already is here, which is why we start with the interoception. We start with, well, what do you notice first? And then, you know, and maybe it's like, yeah, I know what it's like to breathe deeply in my belly. And I'm just noticing that I'm carrying some tension from driving to work today. And I'm ready to let that go. And here I go. I'm going to breathe right into my belly. So, you know, it's good to just begin to know yourself and what's going on, and then what's going to serve. Yeah.
Um, so that was a beautiful offering. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And you brought a little something for the audience today, a second offering. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I have a YouTube channel, and on that YouTube channel, there are many, many offerings that are all free. The call to do this came in the summer of last year, and it was like, it's time to put your stuff out, and it's time to put it out for free as a gift, because the world is a mess and people need support, and they need support in their bodies.
Yeah,
And
come to
that's
quiet.
my gift. Yeah. What did you say?
I said, and to come to quiet.
And come
Like
to
an
quiet.
invitation to just come to quiet.
Come to quiet.
Listen.
Yeah. So I have many yoga classes, 1 hour yoga classes. I have gentle classes. I have mixed level if you are a practitioner. And I also have short somatic experience exercises like what we just did that you can do in 1 to 5 minutes that will restore calm, that will immediately contact your nervous system and bring you to potentially a different state, right? I made a 25-minute video of something called Yoga Nidra, which is a progressive relaxation technique. And this is best done lying down. And it's a little bit like the body scan we did, but it's much deeper. It's a wonderful practice to do, for example, midday after you've eaten lunch, if you've got another half an hour before you got to get back to work, or back to whatever it is you got to get back to. Best time to practice is right before bed. It sets you up for delicious, calm, relaxed sleep. And if you're someone like me who's going through menopause and you wake in the night and you can't get back to sleep, it's also a great thing to just queue up right then and there if you can, if you're in a situation where it's not too disruptive, and give it to yourself even then. So I think what you'll find below is a link that will take you to signing up for my newsletter. And when you sign up for my newsletter, you'll be directed, actually in your inbox, you will be welcomed. And in that welcome, you'll have a link to the progressive relaxation. And there's also a link to the first chapter of my book. And don't feel obligated to read it, but it's there if you're curious. Also. And yeah, so that's the thing. And I hope that my YouTube link is also there so people can just plug into that right away.
Yeah, I'll make sure it's there.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, and so my newsletter, I send out every couple of weeks. I send out a newsletter, and every newsletter has sort of supportive tips and tools about how to really give yourself the support to find states of deep relaxation and calm, to find your way back to feeling like this body you're living in is your home. It's your sacred vessel, and that's how it's meant to be. And so it's just support to help you find your way there, or to support you if you already know your way there to get back there, or give you some new ideas and new tools. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. So you can go ahead and click down below, and go and just find that little moment for yourself. And I would invite you to stay tuned for the rest of the Science of Calm. And I thank you very much for tuning in today. And thank you so much, Marcy. This has been
Mm.
a beautiful journey back into the body and just remembering the body. So
Thank
thank
you, Wendy.
you.
This was really, I'm so glad you invited me, and it was really a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it was. Thank
Yeah.
you. And again, thank you everyone for tuning in.
Mhm.
And we will do a nightly recap tonight at 7 o'clock. I'll be there to answer any questions you may have. And I think we have contests, so I'll let you know who won the contest. Okay, so thank you for tuning in. And thank you again, Marcy.
Welcome. Bye, everybody.